minutes into the final hour, ladies and gentlemen. Max Keiser is our guest. Go ahead and finish up your point, Rob, in Texas, about the situation with Iran.
Well, that's all I had for Max because, I was a little worried about, what that could mean for gas prices if, there's a attack on Iran. But my final thing, I'll wrap up and bounce out of here real quick. YouTube is seemingly messing with my views and keeping my video off the front page. So if InfoWars out there could mobilize and go Google or YouTube search Dennis Miller's show Infobombed and support that video, keep it on that front page just for a couple of days. Thank you very much, Alex. And
all right,
Max,
buddy.
Great.
All right, buddy. Keep it up. Good job. Going back to Max Keiser. We can't talk enough about Iran. I mean, Israel's saying they may strike them, and forget just gas prices. A lot more could happen. From your research, what could a strike on Iran turn into, Max?
Well, the timing, I agree with the caller. If you look at the oil prices for timing, that's usually a good indicator of, how urgent and what the situation is. And oil prices at the moment, in the past few days, couple of weeks, are not telegraphing a huge, shock and awe type event. But clearly, they are trying to collar the country with the same kind of draconian, what do you call it? When like they did in Gaza, the embargo. And I think those flotillas, actually, that are flowing into Gaza, I think are having a much greater impact on how these events are unfolding than people realize, because they are putting on the front page the real human drama of this prison that's being operated by Israel in Gaza, 1.5 million people held in the concentration camp. And this is putting onto the front pages the true tragedy of what Israel is doing in that region. And this has, I think, changed the dynamics when it comes to Israel and Iran. So I was going to ask you also, Alex, have you ever had on your show George Galloway?
Yes, I have.
I think I'd love to, if you could get him on again. He has been fantastic in exposing all of the underlying hypocrisy and atrocities that have been going on in the region. And
now that's the British member of Parliament from Scotland. For those that don't know who he is, in fact, let's get George Galloway back on.
Yeah, he testified before Congress in the U.S. a couple of years ago and absolutely decimated. It's a fantastic YouTube, George Galloway in Washington, where he just tears apart the inquiry into the food for oil inquiry, and he just absolutely tears people apart in Congress and makes them look. He's a fantastic orator and a very smart guy, and he knows that region extremely well. But I just, at the top of the show when we were talking about the Wall Street Journal's idea where oil spills somehow increase GDP. I mean, this is the mindset that we're dealing with. Somehow an attack in the Middle East, another war in the Middle East, is somehow going to improve the economy in the U.S. It's absolute insanity. There's no way at this point, given the debt load that the country is carrying, that starting another war or being a part to another war is going to do anything but just speed up this calamitous dive into economic catastrophe.
Well, that's what the big central banks want, and I hope people tuning in realize this is not hyperbole. We're not hyping this. Israel's saying they may nuke Iran. U.S. and Israeli flotillas are now in place. The BP disaster is going on unabated. They're trying to pass carbon taxes. States are going bankrupt left and right. They're overturning the entire Bill of Rights and Constitution. Obama signed an executive order mandating lifestyle behavior modification, with the federal government running every facet of our lives. EU to ban construction of ordinary family homes by 2020. You must live in government dormitories. This is the Borg. I mean, when I told people years ago that it's going to be a Chinese model where we're all raised in dormitories and our kids are taken at birth like you take eggs from a chicken, as George Orwell said, I mean, this is the plan. They want to totally re-engineer humanity so it's impossible for us to ever resist. This is the scientific elite playing God, and they're using economic warfare to bankrupt us and take control. Sean in Texas, you're on the air with Max Keiser.
Yes, sir. I'm glad to be on your show, Alex, and Mr. Keiser, good to meet you. I live right next door to the largest military installation in the world, which is Fort Hood, Texas. And I'd like to tell the American people that what's fixing to happen is for real. My family was born and raised out there in the Army camp before it was the camp. And back in the 40s, the military went out there and moved them off their land and basically told them they had to leave. If they didn't leave, they was going to be imprisoned. And we can only visit our relatives' graves out in that camp on Memorial Day, and artillery shells hit out there in the cemetery and everything else. But in this little small town I live in, I'd like to say that, you know, the military is gradually taking over. It's coming into our community. It's coming into our Chamber of Commerce, our city. I'm the fire chaplain here in our town, and I'm in the volunteer fire department. And we also, in our fire department, had to be FEMA compliant with Emergency Management Institute. And from my understanding, that, you know, that's countrywide that we have to do.
No, it's total federalization. The preachers are secretly being federalized under the clergy response team. Imagine, secretly they took over the preachers, all the big ones 5 years ago, and they are just training for total military takeover. Now, again, we're not saying the military itself is bad, but the people running it are using it towards an evil purpose. They're totally federalizing the police with the fusion centers. Max Keiser, comments on this.
The trend is obviously getting worse, and but again, my point is that there seems to be the idea that somehow this contributes toward a positive economic development. Like, for example, that corporation, I think, is a classic example of this. The Corrections Corps of America, CCA, trades on the New York Stock Exchange. It's a private prison. And they also own all the restaurants and all of the hotels near the prison. So when people go to visit their relatives in prison, they stay in the hotels, they eat in the restaurants, and it's a prison complex. It's the prison industrial complex. So they're taking tyranny, they're taking and they're taking it public. So you can publicly trade it on the exchange. You can buy Prison Corps of America, you can buy Visa and MasterCard. They're basically in the debt slavery business. You can buy J.P. Morgan and Goldman Sachs. They're in the usury business. So you can buy and sell tyranny on the New York Stock Exchange every day. And that's what you can buy and sell. And people are involved in their pension accounts and their retirement accounts, and they are supporting their own prison imprisonment when they are participating and buying shares in these companies. You're buying shares in your own imprisonment.
Sean, anything else from Texas?
I'd just like to say, you keep the fight up, brother, and don't stop. Back in the 17th century, when George Washington was our founding father here, you know, he didn't quit neither against the British. And we have to have some patriots stand up.
Well, I haven't done 1/100th of what George Washington did. That became physical, and I don't compare myself to that. I'm here to wake up the George Washingtons that are out there but don't know it yet. And that's my job. I mean, that's what I've always seen my mission is, to get the word out to the people. Some will listen. Some will have the calling for liberty. Others have the spirit of liberty beating in their hearts. Some don't. And so I'm here warning people, telling people what's really happening. And then, you know, those people are out there, though, that are going to be our leaders. And it's people out there listening. Not all of us are going to be a George Washington or a Thomas Jefferson or a Patrick Henry. But there were millions of people that played smaller roles in defeating that tyranny. I appreciate your call, Sean. George in Connecticut, you're on the air with Max Keiser. Go ahead.
Hi, Max. I just was reminded of something. We were talking about various things, but one thing, we won the revolution not just with bullets, we won with pamphlets. How can we get a lot of this information out succinctly, put them on everywhere it possibly can be, like a bullet to people, so then they can take the basic information, go to reference more stuff, and then they'll basically become a force of calling their congressmen, boycotting certain companies who are doing this, make other people more aware of this stuff, demonstrate if necessary, on and on it goes. Something like that. But the other thing, Alex, I also wanted you to maybe put up those things you need that you don't have the capability for